It's great to be here again. My name is Gary Fowler, and I am the CEO, president, and co-founder of GSD Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in Silicon Valley. So it is with great pleasure today that I introduce my friend, Jose Graca. And Jose and I have spent the last year together on numerous VC panels around the world. And he's just an amazing, amazing guy. And so it's with great honor that I introduce you to my guest, Jose Graca. And we're going to be speaking about business inclusion. Hey, Jose, it's good to see you today.
Hi, Gary. Good to see you too.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So I got a question for you. How in the world, so you're originally from Portugal, how did you end up in Rotterdam? And then I see you've traveled and lived in 10 countries. How did you do it? Anyhow, I'm very curious.
Well, initially it started like an accident. So I was born in Lisbon. Both my parents are Portuguese. But during the dictatorship period, it was not an easy life in Portugal. So my dad eventually got a license to get out of the country. And he started working for a US corporation called Chicago Bridge. By the way, it's the same corporation that built the San Francisco Bridge. And also
Chicago Bridge. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it maybe was like this business thing and we're bridging a gap. And I was thinking, oh my God, that's amazing.
So he started working as a supervisor there, and he was a welder. He initially was a military intelligence service guy, but he learned how to weld, and that's what he did. And this Chicago Bridge took him, and he, well, the story is that we would have landed in Australia, but for some reason my mother, it's an old story in the family, my mother said, oh my God, if we're going to Australia, we never go back to see my parents in Portugal. So eventually my dad changed his mind, and he said, you know what, we are going to the Netherlands, so it's much closer. So I arrived in the Netherlands in 1967, okay? And I flew, I remember it quite well, I still have these images in front of me. I flew in one of the first continental long-distance airplanes. We were no jets, right, propeller, okay? And that's how I basically got to the Netherlands, and I lived there for a long time, for like 27 years. So my whole education and life experience, in essence, is Dutch. So it's quite a combination between Dutch and Portuguese. Yeah.
Wow.
Now, yeah, that's what it is.
And so, but you have 10 countries. You said you've lived in 10 countries. Where have you lived?
Oh, I lived in several countries in Europe, like Spain, also in very small countries like Andorra. I lived in Belgium, in Luxembourg. So, and then I lived in South America. Maybe surprising, but it was quite nice to be living there for some time, in Colombia, as an example. I also lived in Brazil.
You weren't there at the wrong time, if you know what I mean.
I was after Escobar, so I've seen a lot of these on Netflix.
I was watching last night that said, this is the prison when Pablo Escobar was located. It looked like a 5-star resort. I've never seen anything like it in my life.
And, and basically this is how life has, challenged me. And I, to be honest with you, it was quite good for me to have lived in so many countries, also because I talk a huge amount of languages. And this eases when you are in negotiation processes, also to understand the culture. It's quite interesting. It doesn't matter if you do production or tech or whatever it is. When it comes up to negotiation and getting in touch with people, networking, they prefer that you handle them in their own home language. That's what it is. Sometimes I can tell you one funny part of my life. One day, I do speak Italian, as an example. And one day I was in Italy. I didn't say I was speaking Italian. And the negotiation process obviously was conducted in English. And yeah, I had this advantage that the two owners were talking Italian with each other, which I could understand. They didn't know that I was able to understand Italian. So it can come up to an advantage to you also in a negotiation process. So it depends.
And did it come up as an advantage? I'm very curious.
It did, because I was able to get that price manipulated.
Oh, I got it. I love that. So how many languages do you speak, Jose?
Fluently in reading, writing, talking, about 8, and then not fluent, but quite interesting. Pick up a lot of words. I can make sentences out of it, about another 4. So it's about 12 today, and I'm studying Polish. So I hope I get it behind soon, but it has not been easy to learn Polish because the time has been very short. So, but I already understand quite a lot of words in Polish. So it's an interesting language also.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, now I've got a question. Almost every time I see you, you have a hat on. What's the story behind the hats?
Well, the story behind that is that I'm a hat fan. And I have a collection of hats. Every country I go, I try to figure out which is a traditional hat. Normally I buy the traditional hat. Okay. And then I also have really original Stetson hats from the US. I don't use them often, but I really like hats. And from time to time, I also take them off. It's not that I always run around in a hat. But it's also comfortable, especially if you're in a colder country, then the hat is good. And if you're a very warm country, you also get a cooler hat. So, yeah, I like it.
Yeah, that's great. So you're one of the things I read is that you're the leading decentralized economy and business inclusion leader. So tell us a little bit about that. So how do you become the leading decentralized economy person and business inclusion leader?
Well, I have something to say here, which I think is quite interesting. First of all, we are preparing a filing of a new patent. And that patent is basically a quantum-resistant encryption. And what is the reason why we are going to do that? And why it has everything to do with decentralized economy and with business inclusion. Okay. So the problem is that you need to come up with a technology which is robust, right? And I've heard a lot of your speeches. We've been on these shows together, and we all know that the future is going to change quite fast in the next 5 to 10 years. And quantum will be more or less the standard, and AI is all over the place. So there's no way you can get out of that. So in the next 5 years, if you don't have a robust platform, you're out of the market. That's how it is. We see all these problems now also with, for example, Facebook, that 533 million of these IDs were somehow stolen, right? So that should not be acceptable, especially in 2021. But the old technologies, right, that we have in place still, right? And I know that for some banks, as an example, we have technologies that are running for more than 20 years old. So this is a real problem. Now with quantum, you and I know that this will be broken up in a very short period of time, probably like less than an hour. So if you don't come up with something which is reliable, forget it. The future is about the individual. Mm-hmm. AI makes it possible that we can fulfill the individual needs. Okay, so we still have the social and the environment, etc. But in essence, it's all about the individual. And the economy, whatever economy you have, it's all about the individual needs, what you want to buy. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. Now, this business inclusion, why? So, look at it like this. I didn't have an easy life. Okay, I'm just a simple working class boy. Now, you always say that you are a country boy, So,
yeah, right on the side of a mountain, a 500-person village. Yeah. I had Amish on the left, Mennonites on the right. I mean, it was unbelievable. So I really grew up in the mountains,
You see? So in my case, I just come from a traditional, family, which is a working class family. It was not an easy life as an immigrant, I can tell you that. And you have to be the best of the best to stand out, especially as an immigrant. If you don't, then you get into the line and you always do the last one. So I make sure, right, that whatever I do in life, okay, I'm always standing out and be the best of the best, because I know that if you are the best of the best, then you're going to make it. Okay, it doesn't matter how long time you take, as long as you are the best of the best. Now, what I can tell you is that based on business inclusion, I have so far, okay, not seen anybody that has spent 15 or 20 years of his life basically studying this phenomenon and this problem, which is touching millions and millions of people. It touches more or less 45 million people every year. This is what it's about. And it's about people's having their dreams and not being able to fulfill them. In some cases, they don't even know what type of business they want to do. Okay, so they just have this dream that, you know, a business is going to bring them freedom. It's going to bring them more wealth, but that wealth that they have in their mind, in a lot of cases, is not of becoming a billionaire or becoming a super millionaire. Let me call it like this. It's having a comfortable life, to be able to decide the lifestyle more or less they want to have, and not be depending, let's say, on welfare or on a low job that you execute in a weekly basis. They want to be free to move around. And unfortunately, this is what it is, right? 99% of all these individuals, they come from working class families.
Yeah, that's true. And the situation is, the one thing you learn as you do more and more companies, that the older you get, I don't know about you, Jose, but happiness is the most important thing. It's about whatever happiness is you define as being happy, in a state of happiness. It's really, I mean, it's amazing. You go through all this during your life, and you come up to, well, money, you come up to cars or houses, whatever, but then it's about happiness. What makes you smile? Smelling the roses, looking at the birds in the trees, or the moon or the sun, those kind of things, the beaches. It's just incredible, actually.
Yes, it's a fulfillment. I've been mentoring now, let's say, founders, okay, from time to time. I don't do that often anymore because I lack of time recently. But what I have noticed is that the happiness that they have, and that they are doing something which is useful, they feel that they are useful to society and to themselves. And that's what they do it for. In a lot of cases, it's not about the money. It's about a mission that they feel and about their freedom. They want to be able to do something. Now, this fits into the generation that we created, which is called the millennial generation, okay? And the generations after the millennial, the latest reviews that we have done show that it's even worse. So they are more or less against, let's say, having a job or having a job in an office. They want to have their freedom back. Okay, they want to be able to decide with whom they want to work, on which projects they would like to work. And the society that we have has not been able to enable this. Okay, this is the issue. We have a lot of people that are having a job that they never liked, probably, and they do it just for the cash. And they cannot get out of that environment because they need that cash.
They get in the circle. They get in the circle. Car payments, house payments, or apartment payments, and then credit card bills, and you can't back out of it. It's not like you can throw it in reverse and say, I'm going to turn around. Once you get in, you're in. That's
correct. So I started working in 2015 on breaking this problem. Okay, it was very hard to understand how this could work. And it took me an X amount of years to design all the processes and understand how this would be possible. But in essence, it comes to this. You need to be able to get them into a training program that gives them not the, let's say, a lot of data that is imprint in their mind, but gives them, in essence, the experience for them to make decisions very fast, that they understand what they are handling. So because they are not coming from a knowledgeable-based background, they even don't understand what they are handling. So what we do is we basically bridge this for them into a 6-month training program. And then after the training program, you have another problem, that you get into a very bureaucratic environment. Okay, that 75% of your time you're spending just on paperwork, handling a lot of stuff. You're not business building. And building a business is about execution. It's about networking. It's about building up that environment around you. It takes some time. Okay, so you need some technology that is going to enable you to do this in a very fast pace. And why? Because if you don't do it in a very fast pace, the limited amount of financial resources they have and the limited amount of financial resources available on the market, because we always talk about, somebody raised 100 million or 10 million or whatever it is, but in essence, we're talking about a drop in the ocean. Okay, and that's what it is. So millions and millions of them don't realize that they will never get their hands on that cash. So what we do is we say, you know what? You need to become what we call venture worthy. And venture worthy means you need to get to free cash flows as fast as possible. Once you get to free cash flows, then you can decide if you still want to go out and raise funds or if you want to build it up more slower and just build up that business. Now, that business today, for the grand majority, is not about a unicorn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it may become, right, but they don't have it in their mind. The grand majority just want.
Unicorns are mythical creatures, Jose. It's kind of when I hear people talking about, I want to become a unicorn. I want my company to be a unicorn, and they don't exist. It's like, how in the world? It's like, I want to be Peter Pan. It doesn't exist. So, part of it, we need to really retrain our minds to think about, we don't want to be in the Wizard of Oz. We want to have something that's real, whatever that real is for them.
That's correct. But this is the buzzword that everybody talks about today, right? Yep. But people don't realize that it's such a limited amount of percentage of the real environment. I have some friends, they are more grounded. They say, you know what, for us, this is not the real economy. Real economy is about people and it's about small business. It's about putting the grain, into the soil. It's about, that struggle to build something up, right? So why do we say that we are the global leader? Well, in essence, we could say it, but a lot of people say that we are the only one that they have been able to find today that really has a mission to do this job and help these people. And our plan is that we want to help them and make them venture worthy and also investment worthy. So it means that we pick them up at a point that probably they have no idea at all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is the interesting part. The only thing they have is a mission in life that they want to become somehow a business owner. Because this was the mission that I had. Okay, like 40.
What kind of a business owner? Because, it could be a person having a cart down the street. It could be a retail store. It could be, an AI company or a tech company. What kind of business, or does it apply to all businesses?
It applies to all businesses because we have trimmed this down to what we call the basic of business building. Mm-hmm. Okay, or you can call it building blocks.
And this is BizMoney.
That's BizMoney. Okay. So what BizMoney does, it says generate business and you generate money, right? And that's why we combine these two words. And what we do is we put you into an environment, which is an environment that runs on steroids. Because otherwise you would never get to free cash flows in 6 months. So we trim you, okay, to get to those free cash flows in 6 months. And we do this because we know that the grand majority doesn't have the cash to hold on. So it's not the ideal, but it's what must happen. So the grand majority, if they are able to hold on 6 months and they start generating free cash flows, then they come into this, what we call they get out of the survival mode. Okay, they can move on. But in essence, today, what happens is that they run out of their cash that they use to have this business build up, but at the same time, gain the knowledge. Okay, so it's something that goes hand in hand. And they don't know that it takes 3 years, at least. That's the problem.
Yeah, not only getting the knowledge, but using the knowledge, right? Because some people get it and never act upon it. So how big? I know you started BizMoney a couple of years ago. I mean, how big is the company today? Do you have customers today, or what stage you're in with BizMoney?
So in September 2018, we started with this, and we had before it was BizMoney. Basically, it was only some research. So the research was quite heavy. This is not a normal business. Mm-hmm. Right? You're starting something very unique where there's no comparable solution on the market that basically tackles the same issue. So it was quite heavy in the beginning to understand if it really was possible to achieve this, right? But eventually we got the job done, and when we were comfortable, we said, you know what, let's kick off with the business. So since September 2018, we have been working on basically building the foundation of the whole setup. We realized that it would not be possible for us to go to market in a very small environment. Okay, because if you want to run a digital decentralized economy, to be able to put these people on that they can run on steroids, it means that you need to have a very big user base from day one. Okay, and you need to be able to put that user base before you kick off. So if you don't do it, then basically you get up into an environment that it's no economy, it's zero, right? So this is it. So the preparation for such a business, okay, is heavy, very heavy. Today we are about 60 people working on this.
Wow.
Okay, so it's already quite heavy.
Revenue? Jose, is there revenue today or not?
No revenue at all. We expect to start generating this revenue more or less in about the next 6 months. So we have been purely investing every day, right? For since 2018, September 2018. So this will be like 1.5 years of investment right now. So we had our own means to invest, so it was not a big issue. We have quite an interesting, let's say, pool of investors. More than 50 people are investing into the company today.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, all of them are private investors, so we don't have institutional investors. It looks like we're going to have the first institutional investor quite soon now, because we just signed a term sheet, and we are going to.
Congratulations!
Thank you. Go to through this due diligence process now. But what can I say? It's basically like this: if you are building something which is very unique, and you need to build it for masses, right? And you are not building it small, then it takes time.
So, okay, now I got the BizMoney down, but what about BizMoney TV? You've got that, and then I saw somewhere that said that you were a TV presenter at one point.
Yes.
How does this all, fit in? So, you go from early in your career, how did you get to be a TV presenter? That's really interesting for me. I'm just curious, what's the process like? And then you went from TV presenter to like sound technician. I would have thought you would have go to sound technician to TV presenter, but what do I know? So how did you, what was going on with that?
It was exactly the other way around. I started as a sound technician, but the story is like this.
Oh, okay.
The story is that I had somehow to finance my studies. Right, so I rolled into in the music and the entertainment world, and from the entertainment world, I started doing some radio. So I had a band which I played music in the weekends, and we made some money with it. And then I started doing some radio.
You play music too? What kind of music do you play?
Well, my preferred music is jazz and blues. So that's what I like to play.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. And but at that time I was not playing not even jazz or blues. So I was playing what we call the rock pop, a completely different style.
Yeah.
And I rolled into to the radio, and from the radio I rolled into the TV setup. And it started with sound, and then it went to editing, and from the editing I started doing some presentations, and from the presentations I got a training, and from the training I got to become a TV director for small shootings, So and eventually, I studied finance, so I financed my studies with it, more or less. And because I studied finance, I said, you know what? I'm not going to stay in the entertainment industry. I'm going to finance, because that's what I want to do. That's how it jumped. It's a quite big jump.
That's amazing. So I see in here, cameraman, sound technician, TV mosaic. What is a TV mosaic? What is that?
TV Mosaic was a TV station that was running on the cable in the Netherlands.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and that's where I worked for. Yeah,
that's amazing. So then you go back in your career, you look at it, you've done accounting. How do you move? I mean, it's just interesting. How in the world do you go from accounting to business to TV presenter? I mean, is it like you decided, hey, listen, I had enough of this. I'm used to challenges. I'm going to be an accountant today. Yeah. How does
Well, I studied to become, I was a finance guy. That's what I studied, right? So, and accounting for me was something natural. But there is a challenge to it. I'll tell you the story. The story is like, when I got from out of high school, they said, no way you're going to accounting and numbers and this and that. Because in my mind, I wanted to do something that would be able to generate cash.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So I didn't care if it was accounting or anything else. I just wanted to figure out, where can we make cash?
Show me the money.
Correct. So I said, you know what? The only way we're going to make money is in accounting. So that was the mindset. So, and I was much stronger in languages and geography and history. And I initially wanted to become an archaeologist. So that was my goal. Yeah, so that's something new for you.
Better thing, or was that after the TV?
Yeah. But I said, in archaeology, there is no money to be made, so forget it. You're going into accounting. So,
yeah. That's amazing. Bones or dinosaurs, or what kind of archaeology?
Oh, could be prehistoric, but but I like the challenge of my brain needs to have challenges. That's for sure.
I mean, looking for a little bone somewhere is a challenge, but I suppose if you found a big Tyrannosaurus Rex bone, people in North Dakota did, it probably would be interesting, I suspect.
So I got into accounting, and I worked for KLM Royal Dutch Airlines a long time in accounting, and then I worked for Ceramid Corporation, the U.S. corp. They were in chemicals industry, also in accounting. And then I realized, and that's the reason why I'm doing this Biz Money today. I realized that, I'm not saying this in a bad fashion, right? But let me put it like this. I was such a creative guy, and I love to have challenges, that I said, this job is killing me. It's always the same. There is no challenge in this.
Yeah.
So, and I had done my first business when I was 16, right? So I had a small experience in that.
At 16, you had your first business?
Yeah. Yes. I had my first business with 16. And you want to know what it was?
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm sitting on the edge of my seat. I'm very curious about it.
Yeah. So what we did is I had these two friends. One guy was very good in sales, and the other guy was very good DJ. So I came up with this plan. I had bought a Commodore 64 myself.
Oh, I remember those. I remember.
Okay.
Westchester, PA, with the 1542 disk drive. I remember that computer.
Correct.
The 1541 if you had a VIC-20.
Yeah. So it was with the cassette, music cassette. And I was starting making labels for music cassette and figuring out how to launch every month like a top hit. Okay, let's say the top 40, right? So initially I said, you know what, I'm going to take this DJ, I'm going to mix it, and then we are going to bring this to the market. So we started selling quite slowly, but we had a base of about 100 clients that would buy every month our top 40. Okay, so we would go to the music shop, let's call it like this. Initially, we would buy those vinyl discs, but at the end, we had an agreement that we would rent them for one day. So we would rent them, we would mix it.
You were ahead of everybody else.
And it's prescribed already. So this is 40 years ago. So there's no problem. So what happened is that we were making this every month, and we were making some bucks. We did not a lot of money, but for some youngsters, it was very nice. We could go and have some parties, and that's why we did it. I had this this partnership, I think, like 2 years, or more or less like 2 years. It was fun. So, in getting back to a later stage, so the problem is like this: a job is fantastic, okay, but it doesn't permit you a lot of options, right? And it obliges you always to the same routine. So if you're a person that likes freedom and that you like challenges, right, and you need these challenges to, fulfill yourself, then either you find a job that gives you this, right, or, in accounting, forget it. There is not much challenge to be found, right? So I said, you know what, the only way I'm going to get out of this is just giving up my job. So I literally gave up my job.
That was a Jose.
Uh-huh.
Was that Banco Santander or?
Oh, no, that was at Ceramid Corp. So I had a very well-paid job at Ceramid, and I just basically gave up my job. And I started. I had, as I told you, I had no experience at all, or knowledge, or whatever it was. In my brain, I was, you know what? You need to get that experience. So I started experiencing how to set up businesses.
Wow, that's great.
How to look at the business models, how to look around, what type of businesses there are, and that's how it started.
So what about, you have Yva.ai? What is Yva.ai anyhow? I saw mixed the ERP, much, but what happened with that? It's just, that's interesting. Is it still around, or they get sold, or what?
Oh, a lot of my projects either have access or they roll in to merge into a bigger setup. And Yva.ai is basically rolled into something which was called PayKicks afterwards, right? And from PayKicks, we had a nice exit of the IP, and with the knowledge that we had, built up, and with a new setup, then basically I started rolling into this business inclusion.
Wow, that's fantastic. So you've gone down through, you've done this for 40 years almost.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So what is this company? There was a company that said iBike Design. What is that, a bike?
The iBikes was my first success.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a long time ago. So the
1994.
Yes. So the story is like this. In that period of time, mountain bikes were just kicking off.
I remember I was in California, and I remember the bikes in actually on El Camino Real. There was one of the first. Actually, he developed one of the first bikes. Almost said bike, but a mountain bike. So it was a hodgepodge of this, shocks and that kind of thing. But it was incredible. I remember going into the store and seeing it, after the fact.
Yeah. So the story is that after those experiences, I had tried a lot of things, but also I always was in what I call brick and mortar products. Okay. And eventually I picked up this mountain bike issue, which became eventually a huge success. At the end, we had about 200 sales points.
Wow.
Quite fast. In about 2.5 years, we were able to build up 200 sales points. And it was a logistic company and no production. So the production was done abroad in Asia. So we were importing those mountain bikes into the Netherlands. Mm-hmm. And then they were distributed through a logistic setup that we had. Okay, because they came like 90% pre-assembled. So you got it in the box, right?
I bought that myself.
Yeah. So we were distributed in Belgium, near the border with Germany and in the Netherlands. But my biggest market was in Flanders, in northern Belgium. That was very hot market for mountain bikes.
Wow. And then, so why did you call it iBikes, like iPod, or what?
I don't just that name just popped up. There was nothing behind it.
Talking about it, right?
Yeah. It was just it was just a name that was popular, and
Too bad you didn't trademark it back in those days.
Yeah, that's correct. I had so many trademarks settled in my life. Some of the trademarks were very nice. Some of them also don't make it. You need to try. So it's not because you have a fancy name that it also is becoming a success. But iBikes was a very good one, and I can tell you that we doubled the turnover every year.
Oh my God, that's great. But you're only there 2 years. Why did you leave so early?
Because eventually we got a buyer, that showed up. It was a competitor that we had, and the issue for me was was very easy decision to make, because I started it with almost no cash. Right, it basically was owned by the bank. because the bank was backing all the operations and the buying of these bikes, and the capital that we had was very small at that time. We didn't even think about venturing with anybody or a business angel or whatever it was. It was not in at that time in Europe.
Yeah, no, I mean, the thing is, it's like, it's changed a bit now too. It's not the way it was.
Yeah. So the decision was, you know what? If I sell it now, I can pay off the bank, and I made some money, right? And with that money, I can do something else. And if I don't do it, I'm stuck with the bank. I need to still pay the bank back. I don't know how many long years, right? So that was the decision. I said, you know what? Let's sell this. And I was the only owner of that company, so it was quite an easy decision.
Oh wow! Let's do it. Okay, I'm in. Yeah, it's like, great. Wow. And so that's the first company that you've sold, or what was it?
That's the first one. Yes, that's the first one.
Congratulations.
I did a huge amount of money. It's not that, I eventually ended up with what they call 1 million guilders, but maybe that today would be, I don't know, in 2021 that would be maybe 2 or 3 million, I don't know, euros, something like that, right? But this was, in 1994, so it's a long time ago.
So I saw your through your profile, and it said you wrote a book. I looked at it. It says I just said cook a business. Business in English is maybe not the best, and I said, cook a business training program, because I was going like, man, I've met Jose and I've heard him talk brilliantly on these shows, but what's a cook a business? So tell us a little bit about what's the training program. Cook a business.
The training program, we've been working now quite a long time on it. The books are written and the training program is written. And we are putting it now in a digital environment. So hopefully in the next 60 days, it gets to market. So basically the name was chosen to wake you up.
You're smiling, Jose.
Yeah, wake you up, right?
Yeah, okay. Definitely wakes you up.
Just to wake you up. And we said, you know what, we can name it Bake a Business, but it doesn't sound very exciting. So we said,
call it Cook the Books.
So we said, you know what, in essence, business building is about selecting the right ingredients,
right?
The right materials to build it, right? So we said, okay, this is a good comparison. So when you cook, you need to get the right materials and the right ingredients, and then eventually put it together that it runs, and then eventually you get an excellent meal. Okay, so the whole book, what it does, it trains you more or less. It tries to train you to become a Fortune 500 CEO decision maker. Okay, because we say there is no reason for you to put all that stuff in your mind. It's much more important for you to know how to pick things out and make the right decisions and the mix.
I mean, how can you pick it out today? There's so much data around us. Even if you wanted to, you need these, smart, then intelligent assistants to help us make sense of it, because it is hard. It's not so easy.
No, that's correct. So we train you to have a shift in mindset. And the first book is about the right mindset. Okay, so if you don't have the right mindset, then forget the rest. Right? Yeah. So we train you in essence, telling you that, okay, so if you don't have the right mindset, that's fine. You can still acquire the right mindset, and that's the good news, that you can still acquire it. At the end of the six months, okay, because the training program goes for 6 months, it also has experts that we invite to talk about certain topics. Okay? Then you basically have highly increased your success rate. Mm-hmm. Okay, you know how to pick the ingredients, you know how to look at things, you know how to do your research, you know how to get into your comfort zone, right? You know how to talk about the main parts of all the building blocks of a business building. Okay, at least talk about it. Now, once you have that done, what we tell you is, if you score 70% on the assessment at the end of the training program, we'll give you the money back. Okay.
And what do you charge them?
It's very, very small amount of money. It's $69 if you pay it monthly, or it's about $240 something if you paid in one shot. So it's quite inexpensive.
Wow.
But we still give you the money back. We say, you know what? We want to help you to kick off your first business, and this is some pocket money for you to kick off. So once you have finished that training program, what we do is we enroll you into this decentralized economy, and there is where you are going to trial your first business, okay? And you are so put in such a comfort zone that you still obviously are going to spend some money, because there's no way you can build a business without spending any money. But what we do is we give you a training environment, a real-time training environment, that you are limited in the amount of money that you can lose. And that's the funny part of it. So the training, and from the training you get into the let's say real-time environment.
Wow, that's great. Well, we're coming up to the top of the hour, and I wanted to get your final thoughts in terms of, you've done amazing things. It's incredible. From Erasmus to working as a sound technician to biz money to, literally across the board investor. So, what words of wisdom? There are a lot of entrepreneurs that watch my show, and also investors. What would you say? If you had like 3 pieces of advice, short advice that they could really stick to their head, what would you say are the 3 top things that they need to do in order to, especially during these challenging times, the COVID times? What are those 3 things?
Okay, so let me put it like this. When I started, I knew that I didn't have the ingredients. I didn't have the knowledge, and I didn't have the resources. Okay, but I had a dream and I had a willpower. Now, that dream and that willpower made me, get the knowledge, and made me build my own resources. Okay, so what I'm saying to everybody is like this: it doesn't matter in which age you are, or what type of business you want to build, or what type of dream you have. You need to start, right? You cannot daydream every time. You need to start, be realistic, and pick something out small. Start with something small. You need to kick off with something. You need to build up that knowledge, that experience. And if you don't do it, you want to start big, then you know that you're going to fail, because the percentage is very high, and you're going to get into bankruptcy, right? Because that's the end for a lot of people. If they get into a loan, then you are going to get stuck with it in X amount of years. So my advice for you is like this: willpower. Okay, that's point number 1. Have a dream, have the willpower, be persistent.
Yeah.
That's one of the ingredients. The second one is get that knowledge, okay, and build up those resources yourself. Don't count on somebody else's money. It's fine when you can do that later, okay, but not at the beginning. You need to build it up yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you're right. Steve Blank and Bob Dorp wrote in their book, The Startup Owner's Manual. You got to go out as a founder. You've got to get the first customers, because it's your company and you have the most amount of credibility to go out and talk to them, which a lot of times I see startups fail. And one of the reasons that they fail is that they scale too quickly, or they get down through and they have not done customer development. So they may build the best tool in the world for a particular vertical market or service. But the problem is, if nobody wants to buy it, or it costs too much, it's just, won't work. And so those simple principles, the simple stuff, keep it simple, stupid principles, you need to make sure you're building for the market. I went through it myself, Jose. I thought, I'm a genius. I was 27, 28. I wasn't going to list to my customers, and I was going to build this company, but I was going to let them see it after I was done. And I remember going through it, and it was one of my construction tech projects, about a 7,000 square foot home. And it was I did modular construction, all this. Nobody wanted it because they didn't like the carpets. The carpets were navy blue. I like navy blue. I thought, this is great. Everybody's going to want what I want. But guess what? They didn't. And to replace all that and some of the other things I had to do was unbelievable. If I would have just gone down through and listened. And, Jose, God gave us 2 ears, for a reason, and 1 mouth. And the reason is we need to listen. So it's, your points are well taken, and willpower and tenacity and perseverance, because a lot of people just give up. They just don't understand that you got to push through. It's critically important. Even if you have to make a U-turn, if you don't see it, the pivot, and if when you go down the street and you make a U-turn, as long as it's legal, it's a good thing because at least you correct yourself. But some people just get frustrated and give up. So how do you go down through it yourself? What's the best way if somebody wants to contact you? What's the best way to do it? What way is LinkedIn, Twitter?
LinkedIn would be the ideal social network. You can find me quite easily in LinkedIn, also because I have a lot of posts and I participate in several shows besides having our own show. So you can just go to BizMoney and I'm there, or you can just look out for Jose Graca or Graca, as you say in English, and so just send me a message and I'll get back to you for sure. That's the best way to get in touch with me.
Jose, you're amazing. I really appreciate you joining me on the show today. It's been incredible. You're an inspiration, the kind of things you've done. And, you always got a positive attitude, always go through it. You bounce through, different ideas and you've come out on the top. I wish you a great deal of success with BizMoney, helping entrepreneurs, helping folks. It's great. I like the title of your book, Cook a Business, Make Decisions Like Fortune 500 CEOs. That's because it caught my attention. I'm like, wait a second.
You should write yourself down to get the book. Yeah, I'll send you one for free.
Yeah, no, I love it. I'll do that. I really appreciate it. And thanks again for taking time in your busy schedule to join us today. It was great. And audience, please stay tuned for the next episode of GST Presents Silicon Valley AI and Tech. My name's Gary Fowler, and I'm your host. Thanks again. Appreciate it. Jose, thanks. And I'm sure I'll see you soon.
Thanks very much. See you soon. Thank you, Gary. Thank you.